Yeah, man. So I appreciate, by the way, that you were super on time. I was just on the phone with my dad talking about this political platform idea I've been working on. Remember how I asked you about the colored coins?
Yeah, yeah.
Which everybody says, who the fuck gives a shit about colored coins? Not a single person cares every time I ask them.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I'm trying to figure out if you could just track it. You remember what I said? Like, I've donated some money to Binance charity.
Okay. Okay.
Can I track its usage if it's a colored coin?
You can also track the address. You can also
Right.
track the address.
The addresses that get it, right? But like, say an address uses a coin mixer.
Okay. Like Binance uses a coin mixer?
Let's say. Or the charity they gave it to. So so Binance takes the money, gives it to a charity. And then that charity uses a coin mixer. I can no longer like verify. Yeah, but I guess I could always just track that address.
But why do people give money for charity anyway? I mean, people make themselves feel good. What happens after that? They don't really care, you know? Like, I give money for charity for so many things, for cats, for dogs, for children, like Christmas, like Save the Children, etc., etc. You give money, you feel good about yourself, and you move forward. And the next time that you can give money again, it's like you get those doses of like, oh, I'm a good person.
Right. Why tempt fate? Why tempt fate and make yourself feel awful to find out that they
exactly. Find out that they're cheating you, for example, and like, okay, you get that like, oh, I'm such a good person, I help children, and then you find out that nah, that's not really what happens, and then you're just going to put down yourself. I mean, nah, most people will just do it.
Okay, I get what you're saying. Like, ultimately, you know, why ruin Christmas? Why take away Santa from somebody?
Exactly. So people do it just for their own gratification. I don't know if they really do it to help. Of course, like deep inside, they say to like, yeah, if everybody do like me, the world is going to be a better place. But at the end, it's again out of selfish reason. So when you're doing something out of selfish reason, so like to make yourself feel good about yourself, you would want to avoid like tracking.
You convinced me, man. It's a bad use case. Done. Done.
Okay.
So forget colored coins.
What's the next one?
Well, I mean, you know, that for me, it's always thinking about these use cases to increase adoption, right? Mm-hmm. What are the other ways you can use some of these bells and whistles that increases adoption? Like, what do you think is missing for mass crypto adoption?
Like, I mean, nothing is missing actually for mass critical adoption. It just takes time. I mean, we have already the best tool for adoption. Yes, we have speculation, which is a perfect tool for adoption. And people go because they see some FOMO, for example. They go in, they speculate that they're going to be able to make fast money. And after that, when the smoke clears, yes, many people are losing money. But at the same time, you already have increased the baseline, the fundamental baseline, for example, for Bitcoin or for crypto in general. And every single time you have such a hype cycle, you just attract more and more people. Yes, you lose quite a lot out of them down the line, but now they already know. I mean, they have that knowledge about what this actually is. And next time when there is again a hype cycle, it's much easier for them to go back in. Yeah, they're going to be scared, probably because they would have suffered the previous crash, for example, and loss of money, but they somehow already know how the game works. So they're like, okay, this time I'm more precise. This time I managed to sell at the top.
This is a perpetual casino. I mean,
but it's constantly growing because every single time after such a crash, you increase the base.
Come in. There's more liquidity. Yeah, but the fundamental knowledge, like what's there to understand other than the speculation part right now? Like, what am I using crypto for other than speculation?
I mean, okay, so many people think that there are no use cases for crypto, and those are exactly people that are really not in crypto, because I can tell you that Like, I've been working 4 years in crypto. Every single service that I need to purchase from somewhere, it is in crypto. Everything is in crypto. I need quickly a designer from Canada or from somewhere. I purchase it with crypto. I want to list on an exchange. I purchase it in crypto. I want somebody to do a rating for my ICO or for my project, whatever. I purchase it with crypto. Many people inside that industry, they no longer use money anyway. We only use crypto. It is just easy.
So like, I'm hearing primarily a financial use case for crypto,
Okay.
right?
Sure.
That's what I'm hearing
Okay.
so far.
Financial.
Like, we're not talking about like utility and logistics tracking and any of that shit. We're talking purely so far about using it as a financial tool. And
Okay.
the way you increase adoption is to have more people accept it as their salary.
Okay, so this one now goes a little bit deeper, okay? So I'll expand a little bit on it. So let's take a couple of examples, okay? First of all, a designer that does UI, UX design for a crypto company, okay? For their website or for an exchange or for whatever. You know how much money those people are getting paid? 2 times more than the traditional design companies which are already established. And the thing is, they take 2 times more because they have that understanding. And when you're searching for that type of design, you're like, I want somebody that's into crypto, somebody that understands the ideology, the profile of the market. I want that person to design. And that person, because it's such a niche field and there are so few, they're charging 2 times more. Then something else which happens. Now, for example, let's get a fresh graduate, yes, with financial background, okay, master of finance from some second-tier university, let's say here in China. They go out of university and they need to start searching for a job. The average salary, which is for a graduate, bachelor's, okay, not master's, but the average salary, for example, in Beijing is about 5,000 RMB. That's less than $1,000 average salary. This is very little money for a city like Beijing or Shanghai. Okay, this is very, very little money. This will hardly pay your rent. So I can tell you that interns in crypto companies earn twice as much, okay, without any prior knowledge about just logical thinking and general idea of finances, and then just go in the industry, where the industry actually promotes creativity, promotes you to go inform yourself, to see what the development is, to see what people are doing, and then come out with ideas. It does not promote optimization. It does not promote optimization. And people here in this industry, people are paying because, first of all, it's a very small industry. There is lack of talent. Many of the very smart people, okay, many of the people that are going to go to your MITs and Harvard, etc., those are very risk-averse people. In general, they prefer to walk the established path. Okay, I graduated Harvard.
I do want to. I mean, let's acknowledge that there are people from MIT and Harvard and all of these in the.
Oh yeah, there are still a small percentage because again, majority of them are very risk-averse.
There's not a distribution. I discussed this with Alvaro, your business partner. I don't think it's a bell curve. If you look at talent and experience, I think it's more like a inverse bell curve where you have these like hyper talented individuals like yourself, and then on the other side you have people who they could not find a job, and crypto is like a place where, as you said, an intern's getting paid more than the average one, just by the nature of the kind of funding that's still available somehow.
They're still available. There is always a need. So there is plenty of money outside. The problem is always where to allocate your money.
But you didn't come into this industry. Did you come in purely for the money? Like, is that how you got into this?
No. For me, it predates a lot. Okay, like 10 years before that industry even existed. Okay, so it's like early 2000s. Where I was already fascinated in economics. I was already starting to understand how basically the economic machine works. And I was like, wait. So somebody is making decisions out there, and somehow his decisions affect me down here. And like, how does that work? And then you start thinking about things like interest rates, things like how money are being created.
Quantitative easing, yeah, that's where the
interest rate is like super fascinating concept when you think about it. Like, so you have that handful of people there that basically go like up or down, and the whole world rotates around whether they're going to push the lever up or down, you know. Super fascinating. And you're like, what, those people must be extremely smart to be
that's what you think, right? No, they're just extremely connected.
Exactly. They must be such genius people, and like probably they're very smart, of course. I mean, probably they're very smart.
I mean, obviously your first entry was Bitcoin. Were you a miner? Where were you when you kind of like heard about this? What was your first step into it? Like for me, the first thing was I was an investor. I heard from my ex-girlfriend that the guy she was dating bought some Bitcoin. I'm like, fuck that guy. I'm going to get more than him, you know, just because no one's going to, you know.
So I was rather late. I was rather late in the industry. So Bitcoin was already a thing for quite some time. I mean, I've heard about it back in like 2012. Had some friends.
What was your initial reaction? Because when I first heard it, I was like, "It's bullshit, man." I didn't look into it. I didn't look at a white paper. I didn't try to understand the fixed monetary supply. I didn't try to understand proof of work. I just said internet money.
Back then, so I would say back then the thing was like gaming was a very big thing back then. So I was a pro gamer. I was making quite a lot of money.
What was your game?
So everything, like I game since the 90s, but like my biggest experience, of course, was like World of Warcraft, which many crypto people will associate with.
Of course, man. Because I even discussed this recently, the Vitalik rage quit.
Yeah. So I was a gamer back then, and I was just playing around. I was making money out of World of Warcraft. And then I had people around me that were talking about Bitcoin, and they were mining it. So they were using their GPUs to mine Bitcoin. And my first reaction is like, okay, like digital currency. You know, for me, virtual gold in World of Warcraft is digital currency because I have the means to go and sell it to somebody, and they send me fiat money. I send them my virtual currency. So, okay, for me, my first thing was like, okay, that's a virtual currency, which like in the gaming world, we are already familiar with that concept. Like if you have played Diablo, for example, Stone of Jordan was a stable coin. You know, everything was being priced in Stone of Jordan. It was a store of value because there is always a need for Stone of Jordan. There are always new cores. And then a hack happens, for example, Stone of Jordan loses all its value, and then you go to another store of value, which, for example, would be something that was not affected by the hack. And that's how you also start to learn market, you know, from a very young age. I mean, I was 12 years old when I was trading Stone of Jordans, and I was trading it for fiat. I had people coming, like, I give them the items, they give me money, I continue playing, and I'm like, that's amazing. Like, who needs to work?
But you didn't see the Stone of Jordan as like a reliable store of value. It was just a positive externality on a gaming, like entertainment experience. It wasn't a job.
It was very reliable store of value up to the point when it was not reliable. Okay.
But then you went back to it, right?
I mean, then you understand how hacks and dupes work, and you start to protect yourself. I mean, I also lost a lot of my fortune.
So I don't understand how the hack worked. Did they hack individual accounts and like your security, or did
they were just creating items out of thin air. They were duplicating them.
So they hacked Blizzard itself. They were just like the game.
Yes. They hacked the game. Anyway, the thing is that for people that have experienced that, which are people around my age, so from the early 80s, basically, it was very easy for us to associate with cryptocurrencies once we really understood it. And like where I actually got a lot into cryptocurrencies was after I was working in the financial service industry. Okay, so banks, yes, private banking, wealth management. Once you go through that, and then when you see everything bad which is happening in that world, and you are like, wait. So everything which I thought was like somehow, like everything that I was taught and that I was reading and that people were speaking is actually fake. That's all fake. Like the whole industry is created to
Tough
be.
pill to swallow, man. It's a tough
Yeah,
pill to swallow that, like, you're a grown man and you don't know what money really is.
yeah, exactly. So I was there for about 2 years, a little bit less than 2 years, even though my experience with money predates because my family business was FX, so foreign exchange. That was very interesting business back in the 90s. But when you go to the financial industry and you start to understand how pension works, for example, how a pension works, majority of people have no clue. And when you see how this works and when you see how it is never actually in your benefit, it is never in your benefit. The whole construct of pension is a giant Ponzi scheme. And when you get it, that it's a Ponzi scheme, and you start to question everything and you become very cynical about everything because, you know, you're thinking that, okay, I give my money to the government and they somehow use that money and they pay me interest. And then when I'm very old, with all the accrued value of my pension, I'm going to be living okay. I'm going to be living normally. And that's what you think is the case. It's not the case. You realize that you give your money and your government takes your money and gives it to other people, which now they have to pay their pensions. And then the money that you give are actually gone. They're already distributed. But then somebody needs to do the same with when you go, when you need to start receiving that help, who is going to pay for you? And I mean, of course, in order to fight this, they're increasing taxes. And that increase of taxes becomes unsustainable because there is a certain percent of tax where
No, I'm well
more,
acquainted. Being from Greece, I feel like, you know,
exactly.
I've seen a country come to its knees, not only from, you know, all, I don't want to go down thinking, you know, not insinuating that the EU and all these other things had a lot to do with it, but our pension system really crippled us, you know, where you had, you know, people retiring at 45, qualified as a manual labor, and they were hairdressers, you know,
Yeah.
like, come on, like, you know, you're abusing the system. And we also happen to be blessed with the highest, like, aging population in the world. So like, you know, and now what's happened is the entire youth is subsidized off of the pensions of the old people. So like grandparents give money to, you know, the unemployed 20, 30-year-old who's at home. Um, one of the things, you know, that we've touched upon is value, right? Where it's like, you talked about the stone of, what was it, Jordan? So
Yeah.
I didn't play enough. Like, I've played Diablo, but like not to the point where I know the name of the currency. So Stone of Jordan, right? That had a certain value, but then that value is obviously put into question because it could be hacked. It was also a centralized system. One of the main things that people not into Bitcoin or who haven't understood the uh, you know, what the revolution is, always say, you know, well, what's its value, what's its utility. I most recently read this horrible counter argument that the reason why Bitcoin has no value is because it has no utility. And then, you know, somebody was like, oh, you can melt gold and do something with the gold. And then, you know, I'm thinking to myself, okay, like, you know, what's the value of $100 or a $500 euro, right? Like,
So, okay, I mean, Okay.
How do you explain value to someone succinct? Like what's like you're like this is it, this is it, this is it.
So for Bitcoin, I mean, not really going to go into the same talks that everybody are talking around. I'll just say it very easily. Does it allow me to do things that I would otherwise not be able to do? So does it allow me, for example, to invest easier? So I give you an example. Like, well, just last week, I was talking with some people in Netherlands, and there was that opportunity for us to basically go into a business, and we collaborate, like a couple of parties collaborate together, and we just send Bitcoin, and we send Bitcoin, and we start, and now we have a common business together without having companies, without going through bank accounts, because you can imagine, like you as a person, you're sitting in your country, and then you suddenly start receiving $50,000 from multiple bank accounts all over the world into your bank account. What happens? What happens with you? Like, that's a nightmare. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
no, you're right.
so.
So one of the so you say the value, the utility is not its in its form, it's in its delivery, I guess, because you
It
know.
removes friction. It removes friction. So that's, of course, that's a utility value. And then as a store of value, okay, like gold, I can melt and I can use for something. Honestly, nobody cares. I mean, the only reason gold has value is because gold has existed for thousands of years, and we're genetically programmed already when we see gold to say this is valuable. We have no clue
You
why
think
it's valuable.
you think
Yeah,
like we
it's in our genes.
because it
Yes,
shines?
yes. When we see the yellow shiny thing that looks like gold, we perceive that yellow shininess as value.
Are you serious?
Genetic.
Where did you read
I, I have not read it anywhere. Okay, like you don't need, whether somebody writes something and you read it and then you state it as a fact, or you
No.
just come to that conclusion yourself. It's the same
I've always
thing.
been under the impression that we value gold because it's scarce, right? Like that's the
How
only
do you
reason
know?
we describe
How
value.
do you know that? How do you know that gold is scarce? At which age did you realize that gold is scarce, and how gold works, and how gold production works?
Oh, recently, but like as a kid, like dude, I didn't even know what money was until like I don't know 6 years ago.
Exactly. But as a kid, okay, as a kid, you see that jewelry, and everybody around you,
It's
for
form. Yeah,
example,
yeah, yeah.
is going to give
It's
you a
the
little
form it's
golden
presented to me in.
necklace when you are 5 years old, and like a little girl, and her mom is going to give her a little golden necklace or something.
Exactly. It's the
That's how
form.
that girl understands that gold is valuable, because money gives it to her, and because everybody
The
around her
ceremony, right? It's the
thinks
ceremony around it. It's not that like for some reason, like genetically, you want to talk about genetically.
yeah.
If you're like starving, I'm
Okay.
going into a far metaphor on this. If you're starving,
Okay.
you look at a fish, you instinctively know that like the eyes are a source of fresh water, and that if you eat some of the other like outside of like the standard meat that we eat of a fish, you get nutrients. You instinctively know it. But that's why I said genetically, you don't instinctively know gold has value. It's the ceremony that our family puts around its presentation that makes us from young people think it has value.
No, but like it. Okay, so simple. Yes, genes pass information. Yes. Okay.
Oh, so you're sticking to
So
this?
somebody in the 1500s has the information that gold is valuable. 500 years later, you have inherited that information through genes, and you know instinctively that gold is valuable. Shiny yellow thing, valuable. That's it. And
Yellow thing. What else do you think we have a instinctual genetic predisposition to put value to? Like you were also working in the art world, right? Do you think we have an instinct to realize valuable art? Like is it in our genetic predisposition to know the Mona Lisa is valuable? Because it's been valuable ever since the what, 1400s?
Yeah, with art, it is a lot different. I mean, the word of art is like, it's only about storytelling there. And of course you have scarcity. Okay, so scarcity, but that scarcity needs to be expensive. So if I put two paintings in front of you, and I don't tell you which is which, one of them can cost $150 million, the other one might cost $50. You have no clue which is which, okay?
Especially if they're identical and one's a forgery.
Yeah, if you see that one of them, for example, looked older than the other, though, up to your understanding, like, oh, something older, maybe the painter of this painting must be dead already because that painting is so old. And then you're, through logic, you're going to be like, okay, so if he's dead, he cannot paint more. So that means scarcity. So that means that probably this painting is more valuable. Yes.
So
In
do we have a genetic disposition then to say something older has value? Like I want to kind of delve into this this idea that you have of what we have programmed in us that we value, right? So like the shiny yellow, I've got that. Maybe also diamonds, right? The super glittery, or some of these precious gems. But
okay, I
outside of
think
that,
this is more learned from like TV
okay,
and movies, to be honest.
okay. So other than the shine, like I feel like that's another discussion topic in figuring out, you know, how we discern. But like other than the shiny yellow, is there another one in us, or is that one the?
I uh, I don't know, like what things do we value in life, really? Like what music? I don't know. There are many things, relationships.
But now you're getting metaphysical on me, man.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, let's stick to the point why we recognize the shiny yellow thing as valuable. Yeah, because like how many other things we value, I have no clue, man. Like really, like I know what I value. I don't know what society values as a whole.
Yeah.
For gold, I'm pretty sure that we all find it valuable. Okay, so it's a consensus. It's a social consensus that gold is valuable. And like I explained you my logic about why I think that genetically we recognize that
Yeah.
as yeah.
No,
So
and like I also, now that I'm thinking about it, like you mentioned the old, like I feel when I see something older, I'll automatically be like, oh well, that's, you know, it depends. Like you can look at something and if it's like rusty, but it looks like it was built recently, you're like, okay, that's trash. But if it looks like, you know, something was like banged together, you know, and like very odd tools were used, you know, there's like lots of seams, then I'm like, okay, that's old. And because it's old, that's valuable. It lived. It had the Lindy effect. It survived this long, so it has to be.
uh, I still think that like if you're surrounded by those objects, then probably it's just trash. Yeah. If you just find it like that, and it's something that you have not seen before, and for some reason you find it beautiful, artistic, you think that it has a history, it has a life, and you start valuing it because of that history, because of that survival. Maybe it's from before World War II. Okay, and you see it, and that thing, that item, it has been in possession. So now you attach history to it, and you start to attach faces. Maybe it was your grandfather, or maybe it was somebody else's grandfather that was carrying it in. So you take it, you put it back in time, and you are like, what was the importance that this item played back in that history? And because the history around it is important, the item also becomes important. You know, you attach that sentimental value to it. So now you think
of Pulp Fiction, when Christopher Walken comes to Bruce Willis as a kid, and he says, "You see this watch? Your father, he put this watch up his ass."
Yeah. I just watched that movie last week, by the way.
And you're right. You start to look around, and you're like, okay, I wonder what this thing went through. So story attaches value.
Well, yes,
Scarcity attaches value. In our instinctual gut attaches value, and then the story we apply attaches value.
And of course, utility attaches also value, and Bitcoin has all of those. It has all of those. It has the story, it has the utility, it has the scarcity, which we already recognize from other things, from whether it's going to be art, whether it's going to be gold, because we already know, like as adults, we already know why gold is valuable. Yes, we start to try to justify why it's valuable, because we cannot live with the idea it's only valuable because everybody says so. Yes, you want to, when you're an adult, you want to dig into it and you want to justify why indeed this is valuable, and then you realize that the stock to flow ratio of gold is less than
safety.
Exactly.
Amos's stock to flow. Shout out.
Yeah. So yeah, and you start to justify it, and now because you have already done many justifications for many things. Yes, you have done it for gold, you have done it for art, you have done it for money. Now many people, so valuable things. Okay, let's talk about valuable things. Why Bitcoin is valuable? Because it taught so many people what money is. It taught so many people how the economy works. Is that not valuable? That's knowledge created. Is that not valuable? That's super valuable. We need now this more than ever, when every giant corporation in the world just sees you as a cow that they can milk, and they get away with it. And people are like on their phones, on Facebook, the ads, and all the society around them, because they are the same sheep like them, is just like self-enforced learning of being a sheep. And then something comes out.
Else though, like we're too young, which, you know, it's weird to say, but we're too young to know if there was ever another moment like this where it was just like, because you and I were really deep into crypto.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
It's kind of hard to get out. Like whenever I talk to somebody who's not in it, there's just like, it feels like they're on a foreign planet, or that they actually think I'm on the foreign planet, right? So, I guess what I'm trying to get at is when you look at how foreign some of these things are and the importance, was there another time in history where there was this renaissance of like, wow, look at all these people learning, like the internet? That probably created a similar new understanding of economics and of governance, like all these things that we're forced to learn now in blockchain and crypto. I'm sure it happened in the internet, probably happened in the computing age. You know, like, was there another like maybe cultural subset that has similar evolution or revelation?
I mean, this is quite a unique event. Yeah, I mean, in the recent time, yeah, of course, the internet, but like in the past, I mean, banking, the Medici family, Florence, how Florence came to be what it is, and how it remained for hundreds of years already at that high status, because they invented banking and what it allowed people to do, how it allowed like somebody to give you money for you to go on an adventure, and you pay them interest on the money that they invest in you. I mean, it is quite a revolutionary concept, and it changed a lot in how we function as a society. So I would say, as an invention, crypto and Bitcoin and crypto, they basically challenge social constructs that we have for already like hundreds of years, okay, and which are also quite outdated, I would say. The best for their time, of course, but still outdated. And many people now realize two things, okay? So first of all, they realized the social construct that we had till now. Because when you say like people which are outside of crypto, they don't understand it. Okay, they don't understand crypto. But people which are outside of crypto, like who? The bankers do not understand it? Oh no, they understand it. They understand it perfectly. They know exactly what crypto represents,
No, I mean,
and they
people are, like outside of like finance, you know, because really, like you start going in like, you know, a world and there's like a finance world and then, you know, there's these small overlaps. The crypto world's small, you know, maximum like what, 1 million people in it? Or, you know, how many wallets for real are there? Like I remember Fundstrat, what's his name? Tom Lee.
Okay.
He was saying that he estimates that there's like maybe 500,000 people in the entire like crypto sphere, you know, which it's hard for us to fathom, but it's possible, dude. I mean, it's we're so deep in it. Like I was showing a previous video I did with somebody to a friend, and they're like, and I thought it was beginner stuff, and they're like, I can't understand anything you're talking about, you know. So, you know, we're in a different echelon.
For many of those people, they also do not need to understand it. Okay, so if somebody is a doctor, okay, if somebody is a doctor, does he need to understand crypto and how money works? I mean, with him and his job and his narrative in life is like, I studied a lot of it for this. I help people. I get paid for that. Okay,
Yeah.
and like there is always going to be need for doctors. People will always need doctors because people will always get sick. And he's like, okay, like that profession, you know, like doctor, dentist, lawyer. I mean, the last one I don't like that much, but I mean, you know, that's why those professions are like staple, yes. And they were teaching you, you have one of those professions, and you are set for life. There is always going to be a demand for that profession, etc., etc. The thing is that the value which the doctor creates is very tangible, okay, and he will always be able to create that value, and there will always be somebody that is going to seek for that service. So in his world, he actually does not really need to understand it. And also, those are also professions that make good amounts of money. I mean, they are not on the
Yeah. He doesn't need to know it to do his job, but
exactly.
I argue that everybody, like, money is basically how we value our time, right? Like I am trading my time today for some value in the future later that I can then convert that time ball into something I want. You know, that's what it is. And the time affects us all equally. So I could argue that everybody at least needs to understand how money is. Maybe you don't need to understand the proof of work consensus stuff. Like when you were talking about instinct and value, one of the things that really spoke to me was like, have I actually looked at Bitcoin Core Client? Am I strong enough? Am I a programmer to understand it? No. So I instinctively, I don't know where in my genetics it resides, but I have the instinct to be able to say, I believe I can identify smart people. I believe I can identify trustworthy people. They've validated that this is legit. Hence, I will, like, you know, like the people who make my wallets, right? Like the Trezor and all that stuff. Do I know how to look at open sourced hardware and know that the backdoor hasn't been put in? No. So to a certain extent, you rely on that instinct. So I agree with you on the doctor.
You know how much the company that you are working for, how much money they are making, and what percent of the value that have been created is getting back to you as a worker. Like if you try to compare, if you go and you work for some company, okay, like let's say real estate. Okay, with real estate companies, it's much more tangible, I would say, because you know exactly for how much you sell, what commission you get. But let's say you go and work for a phone factory. Okay, they're making phones, and do you know, you as a worker, your production, the thing that you produce, yes, your productivity, how does your productivity affects them, and what portion of that value that have been created in those phones that now people can use goes back to you? You don't know. The only way that you know about this is again through your peers, yes, through what the other people which are working similar job to you are receiving. But at the same time, you're all down here. But up here is the person that decides how much you're going to receive and how much he's going to receive and how much he's going to receive. And then when three of you see that you're more or less even, and you say, okay, that's our value for the company. You do not know your intrinsic value for the company. You have no idea how much.
In most cases, you don't. Yeah, in most cases, you don't.
Exactly. So, like, when you try to dig at Bitcoin, try to always associate it with something in life that you think you know how it works. But actually, when you really start thinking about it, then you are like, okay, I'm clueless. I have no idea. I mean, I have just been told.
Yep.
So, exactly the same.
I think, dude, we covered a lot of topics, and this is now my record-breaking longest talk.
That's nice.
Yes,
it's interesting.
Congratulations. I feel like we could easily go for a lot longer. I think next time we do this, let's talk about the Medici's more, because I know that you know that shit much better than I do. I think also what we touched upon towards the end on value is trust. And then like one of the things I've been grappling with, and I'll leave this as a question for you and for everybody watching, which is, do we want to get rid of trust? Because that's what decentralization does, is it removes the need for us to trust. But trust is actually maybe an evolutionary advantage, that we can have the imagination to trust. We're not forced to trust, right? Like, is it like our creativity is born from this ability to choose to trust,
Yes.
Our ability to say stories. So I don't know. I wonder evolutionarily, and this is just a question for us to think about next time, are we more advanced or less advanced if we don't have to trust, right? We didn't talk about JRR or AXA at all.
We can cover it some other time. We can cover that some other time. Yes, because
if anybody's ever in Shanghai, anybody watching is ever in Shanghai, remember to reach out to one of us. I'm going to tag everything of Dimitar's in the information. They have the most important exclusive event to go to every Thursday night.
And we only talk about like that conversation that we just had with you.
We basically have these kind of conversations, but with a few cocktails, some friends, and then we have a cool, engaging quiz every night too. It's a must-attend event. I can't guarantee that you can go, but you could definitely talk to us, and we'll try to figure it out. Dimitar, anybody you want to give a shout out to?
No.
Fuck them. If they're important, I'll see them tomorrow night at the event. Okay, bro. Thank you very much. We'll do this again soon.
It was a pleasure. Yeah, and yeah, we should do this more often. Definitely, right?
Awesome.
It was very nice speaking with you. Take care.
Thank you, man. You too, man. Take care. How'd you enjoy it?
It was amazing.
It's cool.
I
right?
mean, it was nice. The thing is that with you, I can speak about this shit for hours. I mean,
hours.